Good morning, everyone here. Okay, so first of all, I welcome one and all present here. Today is a repeat session for the installation of Python and Anaconda in your Windows or Mac OS X system. If you're running Linux system, for this course, then I'll need to know what specific distribution you're running, and we can get you up and running in no time. You can put your questions in the YouTube live chat. You can communicate to us through mentor@cybervidyapeeth.in. And for any and all other communications related to the course, please use the Telegram group. Okay, you should be able to find two bots as admins of the group, which you can text. Soon we'll have a questions bot as well, which you can specifically message your own questions. So be sure to look out for that. And for anyone on YouTube right now listening to me, if you're still not on Telegram, we highly recommend that you please join us on Telegram, because it's so much easier to do communication on Telegram and to give you guys the resources that you need to further enhance your education experience. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen now, and as I said, I can see the live chat, and I can communicate with you guys in real time. So if you guys have any issues, and my team's right here looking out in the chat, so if you have any issues whatsoever, just mention it up in the chat and I'll have a look. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. Perfect. Yep. So my team tells me that it's going fine. So I'm going to go through the absolute basics of why Python, and then just completely focus on the installation, because that's where most people are having a lot of issues. Okay. So for prerequisites, those people that are looking for prerequisites, we want the following. You want to have a tool called Anaconda. Okay, it's a distribution of Python designed for data science and security projects. And you can just go to the website and then click on the download button right here to download Anaconda. It's going to take a few seconds to download. That's completely fine. If you have any issues with installing Anaconda, say that it doesn't get installed or you run into an error, you can try installing the normal Python from the Python website. Okay, I can see there are already some questions. So give me just a second. I'll try my best to answer those questions. Am I audible properly to everyone on YouTube and on Zoom? People, students that have joined me on Zoom, can you just quickly go ahead and type in the chat that I'm audible or not? Because it looks like there's been some issues on the YouTube side. Okay, am I audible here on Zoom? I can see 2 students have joined us. Okay, so MD Aman says that I'm audible, which means I'm definitely audible here. Then what is the issue? Why am I not? Why is my audio not popping up there? Okay, cool. Yeah, it's definitely coming now. Perfect. Yes, so it looks like I'm audible on both platforms. It was just an issue on mine. I'm sorry. Yes. So moving on. I'm going to share my screen again. I apologize for the technical inconveniences. Yes, so if Anaconda does not work for you, you can go ahead with python.org's official download link, which is right here. You can just click on the download button. And then you can click on this button which says download Python 3.10.7. Okay, so you can just click on that and it's going to download a .exe file. Okay, so the setup that I'll show today actually requires something called as VS Code or Visual Studio Code and the normal Python. This is for those students that are having issues with Anaconda either on your Mac OS X, on your Linux, or sometimes even on your Windows systems. Okay, so first I'm going to show you the normal Python. Then I'm going to uninstall that and my old Anaconda. I'll show you a fresh install of Anaconda starting from scratch with no Python on my system, how to code and write your first line of code. Okay, till that point I'll try to take you so that I want to make sure that nobody has any issues whatsoever. Okay, here we go. So let me go ahead and just click here. So I'm going to click on the Python 3.10.7.exe. It's going to give me this pop-up which says that you want to install the latest Python, which is 3.10.7 64-bit. I do want to do that. And I also want to make sure that I add Python 3.10 to my path. This is an important option. Please make sure that you select this when you are playing around with Python. Later on you will require to call it through any terminal or any area of your OS operating system. Then this option will come in handy. Okay, so I'm just going to install it in the default location because I'm going to be uninstalling it almost immediately after this this tutorial. So I'm just going to hit install. It's going to give me a pop-up. I'm going to hit yes on the pop-up. Your screen may go black for a second because the Windows pop-up is a secure application. It's not shared using any sharing application. And after I hit yes in the user access control pop-up, you will see the installation procedure on your screen right now. So let's give it a second. Let's make sure that the installation is happening properly and there's no hiccups. There we go. Now there's another button here which says disable path limit. I like 95% of the time I recommend that you select this option. If you're a newcomer, you should probably just click on it, hit yes. Okay, and just go ahead and make sure that's done with. This is an important step only for the advanced part of the course. Okay? So if you don't want to do it now, you can always uninstall and then reinstall Python again. You can play around with the files, the installation, and all that stuff. So I want you to actually think of Python as just a bunch of files, right? That you can always get from some other source or you can customize yourself, because the language itself is extremely flexible and we want you to take the full advantage of all the tools given to you. So I'm going to now close that. And I'm now going to go to Visual Studio Code. Okay. And I'm going to just download on the front page, right? So code.visualstudio.com. On the front page, I'm going to download for Windows stable build. So I'm just going to click on that. And after just a few seconds, we can see down here, a download has completed. So I'm going to click on that exe file, executable file. I'm going to give the system a few seconds to load the installer. And there we go. We have the installer now. I'm going to accept the license agreement and make sure again that you read through this license agreement. Okay. If there's something in here you do not like, specifically, if it's a section about data collection, which Microsoft does do in this version of Visual Studio, and you're not comfortable with that and processing of personal data, then you might want to just go through and read and see if this is for you. Okay, but as a beginner, I just recommend having a look, because you should know your privacy rights. So we'll hit next, and again, I'm not going to change anything here. I'm just going to hit next, and I'm just going to add all. Just going to do all the checkboxes here. Okay, as a beginner, I recommend you do the same on your system. And then I'm going to hit next. Here, you can see all the changes that I'm about to do to my system, right? So I'm now going to hit install, and Microsoft Visual Studio Code at the user level. So for my current user, which is basically the account that you are logged into your Windows or Mac right now, it's going to do the install for that user. So there we go. We're installed. We're up and running. Now I'm going to let the launch Visual Studio Code box be checked. I'm not going to uncheck it, and I'm going to click finish. This will launch the Visual Studio Code editor for me, right? And here is the code from yesterday's class that I had written. So if you've missed yesterday's class, don't worry. I'm going to write all this code again and explain it to you what it means. We're still going to go through the PPT. We're still going to have a look. But right now, and please ignore this error. That's an error on my PowerShell. It's a Windows thing. And this is not how it actually looks. So if you want to see how it will look on a normal system, I'm going to close the folder. And this is how it would look on your system, okay, when you open it for the first time. This is the welcome page that you see on startup. You have a few buttons on the left, a few options on the top left, and a few more on the top right. In here, towards the middle left of the screen, you have 3 options: new file, open file, and new open folder. Okay, so here I already have made a folder, as this is a CERT-In and AICTE course. As you can see, I've made a hierarchy here. So I'm going to just go ahead and open that folder. So to do that, I'm going to click on the open folder button. I'm going to navigate to where the folder, to where the files are stored. And I know the files are stored here, right here in this folder location. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click select folder. This will drop me into a workspace, a space where I can work, right? With all my files and folders that are in that specific place, that location that I just gave. We can see that here we have hello.py. Okay, I can see some people are asking for the setup of Anaconda. Do not worry, I'm coming to that. Okay, that's also part of today's agenda. Many people around, like I think more than 100 people had issues with Anaconda yesterday. So I'm showing you an alternative right now. Without Anaconda, how to get it up. You install Python from official website. You install VS Code, the normal VS Code from Microsoft website. You install a bunch of extensions. Against what extensions to install, I'll give you the name. Okay. Let me finish the workspace thing. So here's your workspace. Here's the name of the folder, and inside there you can see we have a file where you can type code. Now, there are 3 things we need to take care of. First is extensions. So you can find extensions on the right hand side. It will usually be the 4th or the 5th icon here. You can also do Control-Shift-X. So just do Control-Shift-X to get into the the section of extensions. Now here are the extensions that I have installed, and I recommend you install as well. First of all, there is the auto docstring, which is also known as the Python docstring generator. There's the IntelliCode. There is the Jupyter and Jupyter key map, the Jupyter notebook renders. Now, some of this might be there by default. Okay, so you might want to actually check what is there by default, what is not. Then I have Pylance, Python, Python Environment Manager, Python Indent, and Shades of Purple, which is just a font. Okay, which is just a theme and a font combo. So the purple theming that you see in front of you right now, it's actually because of this this professional theme called Shades of Purple. Okay, so I have this installed as well. So these are the ones that I recommend installing first and foremost. If you lack any of these, you can just come up here at the top and enter the name. So say that you want to install Python and Environment Manager. Okay, so you just have to search for Python Environment Manager. There we go, and an install button will appear on the right hand side. You just want to click on the install button and you'll have the extension, right? So for example, if I could uninstall and show it to you, so I'll just uninstall this, and then you can see there is an install button here, so I can just click on that. It's going to download and install. There we go. Now what has happened is, after you've installed so many different plugins, if you look at the bottom right of your screen, you'll see you have a select interpreter option right here. Select interpreter, right? If you click on that, it will give you the different locations for Python. We can see that Python is installed in two locations. Okay, one is the normal Python and one is the Anaconda Python. Again, because I have both Anaconda and as I have the normal global Python, which is also the standard Python that you can get from Python website. So for now, I'm trying to teach you guys how to do it without Anaconda. So I'm going to select the normal Python. Okay, it tells me that it's selected normal Python. And now you can actually start writing code. So you can go ahead and type something like print, and you can do hello Cybervidyapeeth, right? And the hello needs to have a comma, and Cybervidyapeeth needs to have a semicolon. Then I'm going to press CTRL-S on my Windows system to save the file. Okay, and to run the file, I'm just going to come at the top right, and here you will see a run icon here, right? Run Python file and debug Python file, two options. If you click on the arrow, I'm going to select run Python file. And what's going to happen is, when you click on the icon, you can see that automatically down here, we can see the output, meaning that our system was successfully able to execute this script. Okay, so this is using standard Python distribution, which is which you can download from the Python website, python.org. This is not using Anaconda. Okay, this is without Anaconda. Now Anaconda is a much heavier distribution. It comes with TensorFlow and a bunch of other OpenCV and a bunch of other libraries that normally you do not get, and you have to manually install. So I am going to give you a small example of how to install something. Okay, so bear with me here, all the people waiting for Anaconda. I know you're there. I can see your chat. I'm coming to it. So for people who don't want to use Anaconda and just want to do it plain and simple, you can install your libraries using a command called pip. So you can do something like, give me a second. PowerShell. Okay, give it 1 second. Okay, so in this environment, there is an issue. Command prompt. Okay. Okay, so there's an issue with pip on Windows. Okay, cool. Don't worry, that's not required anyways, because if you can use Conda, or you can always just go to PowerShell and install it, or you could use the IDLE and install it from there. So you have multiple options to do that. So right now, what I want you to focus on is that the Python environment manager lets you switch between Python environments. One, you want to always prefer the Anaconda environment wherever possible. Two, it is possible to use the standard Python and set that as your interpreter and then get code execution from that. Okay. And 3, now I'm going to show you how to do it through Anaconda. So to do this, I'm going to clean my system. So I'm going to go into apps and features. I'm going to hit search this list and I'm going to type Python. And when I type Python, you can see that it searches through a large list of apps to give me 3 apps: Anaconda, Python, and Python Launcher. I'm going to first of all uninstall the old Anaconda that I demonstrated yesterday. So I'm going to uninstall this. So let's give it a few seconds. Then I'm going to uninstall the normal Python and the Python Launcher. I'm going to completely remove Python from my system, okay? And show you a fresh Anaconda setup right from scratch so that everyone who's been having issues with Anaconda can get a clear picture of what's going on. This is a very patient work, okay? So you have to be a little patient. You know, these libraries can span hundreds of MBs. Deleting them is as hard as installing them, okay, on the system. So I apologize for, you know, any OS delays that are being caused right now. Let's just give this a minute and, you know, I'll get back to it when it finishes, okay? So, you know, you guys can take a short 2-minute break until that happens. Okay, so let's continue. So as we can see that, you know, the installation was completed. So I'm just going to hit next and finish. And there we go. We do not have Anaconda installed on our system anymore. I'm going to do the same with the normal Python. I'm just going to uninstall it. So I'm going to click on the uninstall button in the apps and features sections of Windows settings. And here we go. Now it's installing. So, the uninstall will take around about 30 to 70 seconds depending upon your system. May take more if your system's a little older or has an i3 processor. I am running here an i7, so there's going to be some speed difference in speed. Many laptops have i5, so you might have some speed issues there. I recommend not using your system while the uninstall actually happens. So there we go, that is done. And I'm also just going to click uninstall for the Python launcher and just get rid of that as well. I don't need that as well. So there we go. So we can see that there's absolutely nothing on my system with the name of Python anymore. Okay, which is fantastic, which is exactly what we wanted. We do not want anything even closely related to Python. Now what I'm going to do is, now that we do not have Python, let's get the original, get back to our original agenda, which was to get Anaconda installed properly. So after downloading the exe file, I'm going to click on it just once. It's going to say, please wait while we instantiate the setup. There we go. We have the setup now. It also gives you a message. Okay, so mine is again a powerful system, so I am not doing this, but you might want to heed through this second paragraph, okay, which says it is recommended that you close all other applications before starting setup. This is recommended way of doing it in Windows. Okay, I have many streaming software and many other things running in the background, so I'm not going to do that. But if you're doing it at home on your laptop, you have a i3 or an i5 Intel processor, or a similar spec AMD processor, or even a Raspberry Pi for that example, you might want to close other applications before you go ahead with this installation. So I'm going to hit next. Make sure you read the license agreement. I have already read it, so I'm going to click I agree. I'm going to let the setting be just me, which is the recommended setting. I'm going to hit next. Next. I'm going to make sure that this option is unchecked. Do not check this option, add to path. Okay. Keep this option unchecked and make sure that the second option is checked. So add Anaconda 3 to my path environment variable should be unchecked. And the second option, which is register Anaconda 3 as my default Python 3.9, should be checked. Okay. Then I'm going to just hit install. And this is going to fly through again because I have a pretty fast system. So it's not going to take too much time with the installation and copying of files. It's going to start extracting a bunch of files and placing them in all the right places. If you're having issues, okay, in terms of where the package and where the files are going, what I recommend you do is you check your C drive. So Windows has the default system drive called the C drive. So I highly recommend that you go ahead and you check out the C drive program files, because there's usually where Anaconda will install all these libraries and these files. And these are some pretty interesting libraries like Seaborn. I can see, I can see the skit image sklearn library. I can see the matplotlib base library. So many interesting libraries that we'll play around with in the data science and in the security part of the course. So some really interesting libraries. I truly believe that Anaconda makes the job of the developer much easier, and as well as the student, right? Because it gives you so many tools with just a single installation, and it configures everything for you, so you don't really have to manually go ahead and configure it. Though I do recommend the manual route to anyone who can afford to do it, because it helps you learn, it helps you grow. So right now we don't have time to cover manual step for everything, hence we're showing you Anaconda. When you are playing around with Python, you might want to go with vanilla Python, from the Python website, and you might want to play around with Python yourself. Okay. That way you will learn more, which is our end goal, right? We want you guys to learn as much as possible. So again, let's give this a minute. I'm just going to, wait for about a minute or so. This should happen pretty quickly. I can see that there are some queries regarding where to watch the videos that are being streamed right now. The short answer is it actually costs us quite a lot, as Balaji sir had mentioned in the yesterday's session, to store these, because these are being streamed in full HD with high bitrate and high res audio. So there will be some charge if you want to see them later. Okay, live there are absolutely no issues because we are using around 7 8 devices here on different accounts, different internet connections, and we are testing, even on mobile data. I have a phone in my hand right now, I'm testing the stream, everything's perfectly fine. So if you are seeing an issue, it's probably because there is some issue on your side. Okay, so please, I recommend that you do a speed test of your internet connection. You make sure that your system's working properly and that you're using the Chrome browser and you're using either YouTube or Zoom. Again, Zoom link has been shared and it is the recommended way of watching the stream. But YouTube is also working fantastically because, as I just said, I'm actually seeing what I'm saying live here. So I can see that it's working perfectly fine. So if there's any issues, please, feel free to uh, contact me. Okay. You can also contact the editor bot, which is on the Telegram group. You can directly call the bot actually. And we'll try our best to help you. But only call if you have a serious issue. Okay. Because we might not pick, because again, as I said, we are limited to a few people, so it's hard to manage that many students. So try to get your questions answered on the Telegram group first, as I can see the chat live here. So if you have any issues, I'll be more than happy to help you guys. So moving on, um, now we can see the setup was installed, so I'm just going to hit next again. I'm going to uncheck Anaconda distribution tutorial and getting started with Anaconda. Both of these options I am going to uncheck. Then I'm going to hit the finish button. Okay, so now that is done. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to close Visual Studio and open it up again. So I'm going to search for Visual Studio Code, open it up again. It's going to remember the last changes I made to my hello.py file, which is a Python file. And here you can see at the very bottom, so bottom right again, select interpreter right here. You can just click this button, and now you can see that it has detected that Anaconda has a Python version installed, right? Which is the base environment. So I'm just going to click that. And now you can see that we have Python 3.9.12 up and running inside our system. And you can actually test this out by just hitting the run button. And there we go. You can see that the code was executed. Let me run that again. Yeah, there we go. So you can see that we were actually able to run the code again. Here's the code and here's the output, right? Hello, Cybervidyapeeth, right? There you go. So that's how you know that, everything's working completely fine and that Anaconda is installed. From this point onwards, there are many ways you can play around with Anaconda. One simple way I recommend people to do is just search for Anaconda Navigator. Okay. So no matter which system you're on, either you're in Mac, Linux, or Windows, you'll be having this tool. Okay. If you've installed Anaconda. So once you've launched it, you're going to have to give it a few seconds. It's going to run a bunch of scripts and it's going to start initializing and loading the Anaconda tool set. So, give it a few seconds. And this is basically like a dashboard for all the Anaconda tools and libraries. Okay. So there we go. It's open now. And you can now see that Anaconda is up and running. There we go. So what I recommend is if you want to manually go ahead and play around in the environment, then you have few options. There are two that I recommend the most. One is the VS Code button right here. If you've installed the official VS Code, you can actually just hit the launch button. So For example, if I close VS Code and I don't have Visual Studio Code running, and I hit the launch button, it's actually going to launch VS Code with all the Python libraries and settings magically. You don't have to do anything. Okay, so just like that, magic. Okay, everything up and running. If you want a terminal or a command line environment to work with your Python utilities, I recommend the PowerShell prompt option here towards the right. So I'm just going to hit the launch button here for the PowerShell prompt. I'm going to give it a few seconds. There's going to be an error. I know that for a fact. Please ignore the error. And there we go. So now you can see in the PowerShell prompt, the message base, which shows clearly that you're in the base environment of the Anaconda system. And you can actually have more environments, because if you have a nice keen eye, you'll notice that on the left side in the Anaconda, there is actually an environment section where you can actually go ahead and create new environments. So, we'll be playing around a lot with environments in future. So, stay tuned for that. And what is an environment, how it affects your Python, how can you have 7, 8 different types of environments for different kinds of projects and tools and utilities. That kind of project management scale is also something I'll be taking care of. So we'll be having a lot of fun with that as well. Here, if you want to test if your Python is working or not, you can just type python.exe, and then you can just give it a simple command like something like print test. Okay, and if it prints test to the screen, it means that your Python is working. These 3 dashes mean that you're in the interpreter right now. Okay, so the interpreter and is basically, as the name suggests, an interpreter. It's literal meaning of in English. Okay, you tell it something in the Python language, it understands that language, and it responds to you in the same language. So just now I told Python in its own language that, hey, can you print this message, whatever's inside these double quotes, onto the screen? And Python understood what I just said. And the other guy on the side, Python, just replied, yo man, I agree with you. There you go, test. So that's on a very high level kind of how programming languages, like high level programming languages like Python, are designed. They're designed in such a way that you can actually kind of converse with them. Okay, they're very close to the human language. So that is one example. So now I think it should be pretty clear how to go about setting up Python on your system. Okay, if there's any questions related to the setup, you can put them in the Zoom chat, or you can put them in the YouTube chat. Okay, again, we prefer Zoom over YouTube, so please prefer Zoom, because I can see Zoom live here as well, much faster, and it's much more stable. If you have any questions in the YouTube chat as well, please post them now. I'll try my best to answer. Okay, I can see some people are telling me that they have an old system, a 32-bit system. I'm sorry to say this, but 32-bit support for Windows has been dropped last year, and most 32-bit software is now basically extinct. So if you have a Pentium or similarly spec'd old computer, okay, I'm afraid that working with latest versions of Python, so anything after 3.6, is going to be impossible. You're going to have to upgrade to a better system. Okay, laptops that can handle Python, basic Python programming, cost anywhere between 8 to 18,000. If you want to do basic programming, and if you are into deep neural networks, the price can go as high as 1 to 3 lakhs. So you have to actually see what your workload is and get a laptop, okay, or a desktop. We highly recommend that you have your own system, okay, because if you don't have your own system, it's going to be really hard to write some Python code that makes sense or make an app in Python, because we'll have some very cool projects like making your own website, making your own Amazon price tracker, playing around with SSH botnet hacking. There's going to be so much stuff, and you're going to miss out on it just because you don't have a system. Okay, so try to procure one if possible. You don't have to upgrade if you already have a system that's less than 10 years old, because I can see someone just said they have a Pentium, which is more than what, 20, 22 years old now. That's just not gonna work. Okay, unless you're running Linux, maybe then Linux can do some magic. But from my experience, Windows and Mac are just straight out of the box not gonna work with something as old as a second or third generation i3 processor, or even i7 for that matter, which is in the second or the third generation, or a later Pentium core system. So yeah, that's not going to work. Okay, so be careful of what spec machine you are using. That's actually going to affect your performance and your systems, overall capacity to run data science projects later down the line. Okay, I can see some people still have issues with PowerShell. Uh, Guys, you don't have to really think too much about it. Once you have Anaconda, just one click here in the launch button below PowerShell, and it's going to launch PowerShell for you with all the required settings. Okay, that's it. That's absolutely it. You do not have to do anything else here. Just make sure that you're launching from Anaconda, and you'll be completely fine. If you want to use CMD, again, the first option is to run CMD. You can just launch CMD, and it's going to launch a CMD with all your settings, which is command prompt. CMD stands for command prompt for those who don't know. Okay, so keep the questions coming. I'm actually looking, and my team's answering many of those questions. So I'm going to try my best to reply to as many of them as possible. You will see a lot of different tools here like data lore and Qt console and Spider. Please do not worry. We'll explain everything in due time. Everything will be explained. Try not to go overboard in a single day. Okay. We'll take it baby steps. One by one, we'll build the building blocks. Okay. Okay, I can see some people are saying that they want to see the PPT again. Okay, so the first few slides I'm going to show again so that you guys have a rough idea of what we did last class. So here's Python programming. This is the front slide. As you know, this course is taught by us at Cybervidyapeeth, and it's it's association with All India Council of Technical Education and CERT-In. Here's some basic introduction about Python again. I've already explained this. If you want, you can actually Google every single of one of these terms, and you will find like at least 100 articles going in much more depth and explaining what each of these mean and how they affect your coding, okay, compared to another language, say Java. Okay. Here's the installation steps. Again, this do not go by this PPT. Okay, follow what I've just showed you today. That is going to be much more helpful to you rather than following the slide here, because the slide only shows you the absolute basic setup. Here you can see the two ways to run the hello command, both of which I've shown you. So one is the print hello world, and the other one is you're using to run a file. So you can actually show that to you. So I'm going to run my PowerShell, and I'm actually going to go ahead to cd courses AICTE, going to go into code. I'm going to enter one, and here we go. We have hello.py file. To run the file, I can just do python.exe space hello.py, and there you go. We have executed the file. And this line of code is same as what you see here in the PPT right here. Down here we see C users your name Python my file.py. So that exactly is what I did right here, right? I just said Python my file.py. So if you want, I can actually just make it look like the PPT. It's still going to work. It's still going to execute in the same way. So it won't really matter. The exe and the dot backslash is basically something weird that Windows PowerShell likes to do. What can I say? It's not as beautiful as Bash, but it works. We also discussed keywords and identifiers, okay, in the last class. So keywords are reserved words that the programming language understands and has a special meaning for. Identifiers, on the other hand, are basically terms that are used to identify some value. For example, if you create a variable or a box whose values can change, then the name of that variable is going to be an identifier. An example of a variable and how it looks can be seen here. So I'm going to actually show you the output. I will go here and I will run VS Code. Again, notice how I'm using Anaconda Navigator, okay, to launch all my applications rather than doing them manually. So in code here, we can see we already have one line, print Cybervidyapeeth. To declare a variable, you can do the name of the variable equals, but that's definitely not the spelling of the equals value of the variable. Okay. So for example, the name of the variable is my marks, okay, which is equal to say 95. That's a variable. You can have I sleeping, which is a yes no kind of a variable, right? It can only have two values, yes or no. So instead of yes or no, Python understands true or false. So I'm going to give it the value false. Same way, do I have a car equals to true, right? So these are some types of variables. You can also have other types of variables. For example, you can have a variable for pi, which is equals to 3.14, right? You can also have much more detailed numbers. For example, something like t could be equal to 10.001001001, and that's still a variable. You can save the file, you can run your program, and you'll have absolutely no issues. Okay, so these are all variables, and these names, okay, my marks, am I sleeping, do I have a car, pi t, these are what we see in the PPT as identifiers. They identify that variable or anything else. Okay, there's going to be more things after variables that have identifiers. So this much we saw and we discussed last class. If you want to see, if I'm saying the right thing or not, you can actually run the program. And once you run the program, and you see the output. You can see here down here, we still have the print statement being printed, hello Cybervidyapeeth. And we can take it up a notch. How we can take it up a notch is, I'm going to print all these variables. So I'm going to print my marks. Okay, so I'm just going to give the name of the identifier. Notice I'm using the code, okay, the print statement. I'm also going to print, am I sleeping? I'm also going to print, do I have a car? I'm also going to print the value of pi. So I'm just going to do print pi. And then finally, I am going to print the value of t. Okay. So after writing all this code, I'm going to press CTRL-S to save the file. And let's go to the top right of Visual Studio Code and run the file. And here we go. We have the output. Notice how all the data was saved into the system. And then when I told the Python program to print it to me, it was successfully able to print it. So all these are different types of data types, right? Because the data stored in each variable was different. One had a number, other had like a true, false, 0, 1 kind of a value. Something had like small decimal number, something had a large complex decimal number. So we can see that different types of data. And this is where I stopped yesterday, that there are different types of data types. Okay. And these data types are how Python knows what something is. Okay. What the value of a variable, a constant, a function, a method, a class is. We'll be going much more deeper into data types. Okay. Later down in the course. Again, this is just a review class, so I'm not going very deep into it. Today in the evening, we'll go into it a little bit more deeper. We'll try to understand. We'll see two programs. I'll write two programs live. You guys will follow along with me, and then you'll understand. Okay. So this is basically what we had studied in the last class. Okay. So I guess that's pretty good for the review in terms of what in terms of what we had studied last time. Okay. Okay, if you have any more questions or suggestions, feel free to post them in the YouTube live chat. After about 5 to 7 more minutes, maybe 10 minutes, the YouTube video will go down. Okay, because as I said, it's actually really costly for us to store such high quality videos. So there is going to be some charge for each of these sessions that we record. They will be available to you, but for a small fee. How to pay the fee and access the videos will be shared to you guys soon in the next 1 to 2 days. Okay, maximum. So you will get access to them. You'll be able to watch them. You'll be able to download a mobile app and then watch them in the mobile app. You'll be able to ask us questions directly through multiple channels. There'll be forums where you can discuss. So there's going to be many things. Okay, so you guys will always have access to the best possible resources that we can provide you, and we'll try our best so that every single one of you is having Python installed and ready to go after today's session. Okay, so let me just see if there's any other questions. If there's no questions, I can see that some people are requesting us to delay the session. I'm sorry, Balaji sir had made it very clear beforehand that we also have strict schedules. So unfortunately, we cannot delay our sessions. You're going to have to join them live. If you do get delayed or you're unable to watch our sessions, as I said, all the sessions taught in this course all at once will be available to you by paying a small fee. How to pay the fee, how to access the courses again, all that information will be shared to you soon. Okay. So you'll come to know how to do all of that pretty soon. It will all be shared in the Telegram group. So my request is again, please join us on the Telegram group. That way it's easier for us to connect. It's easier for us to share materials, and it's easier for us to see how many people are, actually working day and night and are, giving their best to become the next generation cyber rakshak for Bharat. धन्यवाद. जय हिंद.